Change the clock so it's more it's 5:28.
Yeah.
That would be just how much time you spend there.
Any good song? That's not a good script.
It's really good. You made out. Like when I came over. Yeah, it's good. You can feel it.
We got 1,500 this morning, which is pretty good.
Yeah, but does it say?
Out to your place?
So I mean, it was something. It wasn't a lot, but it was something.
Yeah. I would think it.
But when I was driving to work, I got to Bob Osmond's. Nothing. It was really spotty.
Yeah.
Was there?
Somebody must have a definition of it somewhere.
She should, because she's the ESP or was the ESP. She said for her it only starts
And
I like
that's
that
on your
though.
personnel
Did you look at it?
agreement or something that says how many days
Just
per
the
hour.
executive one,
That's
the executive contract.
on your personnel or something.
Yeah, it does, but it doesn't say if it goes by that or if it goes by.
But then I was
higher up to that point.
And some people like,
I think it would be prorated.
that's a price.
Because they can't require you to get just 88 when you only started.
It's all information.
And 8 on
Yeah. Okay, it's 5:30. We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. We'll stand and say the pledge of allegiance at this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Something that the agenda keeps being funny because we should adopt it before we do public forum, so a recommendation to adopt the agenda. Moved by Gina. Second. Second by Sandra. Questions? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Public forum, the only one I have is Laverne to speak at this time and also to speak in regards to 8.1.
I guess first of all, my request is public forum time. And I added 8.1 on as some questions, but I would like to address the board in public time to state that I am really kind of let down of the morale basis and some of the actions that the board has taken in respecting your staff and stuff that we had. And what I'm going to use for an example was back in prior years and stuff of agreement, the certified staff had with the administration and the board that if an individual in 5-year periods used to get a bonus, incentive, appreciation, or whatever it was. Well, for some reason, all of a sudden this year, that during the appreciation night, the question come around that they weren't giving out these appreciation and bonus because the board done away with it. And I thought, what do you mean they done away with it? Well, they said it was no longer there anymore. And I said, you know, that's really a lot of appreciation, I guess, if you took something away that we've had for years. And it's been kind of like, oh, it's probably a good feeling to the employee. Well, I went through and so I went through the staff recognition book and listed and labeled the individuals that would have had 5-year increments of service to the district. I come up with 33 individuals that did not get this, which we've done before and all that stuff. And I just thought, well, that really puts a lot of morale into your system if the board decided to do away with that. So I really feel that, that's just not showing any kind of appreciation. So then tied in with that, it just happened to be there were several individuals that are in the retiring process. Then we get informed that they can't go through the retiring process because the district has not settled on final pay for individuals. So what again, another slam now, making certain individuals aren't able to get their retirement started because the district is not being able to give them a final pay. So once again, it shows the appreciation that must take effect. And so I just can't believe that the board would have to, I don't know if you think you're saving money or whatever, but it was quite an insult to some of us that after we heard about it. So I wish you would rethink about maybe what has been done and maybe come back and try to show some kind of, get some things resolved or so. And that's all I can tell you is if you can question it, I'll sure question with you. But I wish you'd take a look in order to help with the morale, the showing of appreciation of individuals. There's a lot of them been here 25, 30 years. If we've done this to them, it hurts. And then the 8.1, I'll jump to that if I still have a little bit of time.
Yep.
The other night we was at the special meeting and we talked about security and the suggestion was to increase security to get 2 positions. Well, I want to know, and maybe you guys thought about it, that is this you already proposed the budget, am I correct on that, Chad, for the upcoming year? Now, in a case like what you're doing now, is the budget going to have to be amended?
Yes.
To include that? And then is one department losing money, or is this part of that contingency that you...
It'll be built into the budget. There's a lot of unknowns as you build a budget, preliminary, and as we finalize contracts and get our staffing in place, that amounts to about 80% of our overall budget. As those things become clearer, there's always going to be adjustments. So the process is we have that public hearing in July, and by October 1st, the school board needs to approve a final budget, and that's when greater clarity comes.
Okay, so it is understood by the board that you guys are also making some kind of financial move by approving these 2 more positions. So I just making sure you're aware of it.
Going back to the awards, Laverne, you probably didn't agree with it at the time, but that goes clear back to when Dr. Bordeaux was here and we sat down at the other boardroom and went through the whole book policy by policy. I think at that time you chose not to attend those meetings, that the rest of us did meet with Dr. Bordeaux, and that was had been a recommendation by him at the time, and he had what it cost the school district at that time to do all of those awards, as I recall going back. If you go back in your notes and you go home, you'll probably see, because I know you keep everything, that came about when Dr. Roger was here, and the policy has never been changed. It was like that last year and then this year again.
It was in the 2015-16 agreement, so.
Yeah. But that goes back, that was changed to match policy that had been done when Dr. Roger Bordeaux was here. And he had us go through the whole policy book. And that had been a recommendation he had brought to the board, and he had the financial figures of what it costs the school district to do all of that.
Okay, but it didn't come out until the
We, the board,
16,
yeah.
17, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Approval of the minutes. Moved by Sandra.
Second.
Second by Gina. Questions? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Superintendent report.
Well, I included final district data tracker, tracking student attendance, staff attendance, just for the last 2 years comparison. And also on this last one, we have the growth data for our students. We look at growth, not their achievement levels. We look at where they come in and how much they grow. So we would like every student in the district to grow at least 1 year in math and reading while they're here. There are factors that sometimes influence if a student can make that grow, not just the teacher, because sometimes kids come in and come out, sometimes they don't attend school or they'll change school. So there are factors that influence that. We had some marked really good improvements. Congratulations to Lakeview teachers for having improvement in those growth scores. Also at Middleburg, Oak Creek had improvements. Rosebud in reading had improvement, and at the high school, improvement in those growth scores. And then I'll note that at the achievement school, 70% of their students made that growth goal at the achievement school in math this year. So that's really good. Congratulations to their staff working hard in math. As far as attendance, Lakeview still has really good staff attendance, student attendance. Littleburg had great staff attendance, but their kids decided not to come to school the last week because, and Marlis was talking about that, some of the different planning things that they could do so kids don't stop coming to school once we have that honoring ceremony. So that's why we do the data. We like to look at it so we can look at what happened and figure out what we need to do better or make changes. That's why we keep the data. That's why we have the MAPS growth data, is to reflect on that. Curriculum, instruction, teachers reflect on it in their practices. Because when everyone's looking at it, involved in it, and cares about it, then we're going to have a greater chance to make improvements. That's why we do that, keep track of that data.
Anybody have questions for Dr. Whitney? Al, you're on.
Okay, thank you. If you have a hard copy of my report, I'll try to make it so it's easy to follow along, or if you have it on your computer, that's fine too. Basically, this is the fourth quarter for the technical quarterly report, and there are some things that we've discussed before throughout the year. However, there are some items that I want to focus on. Underneath where it says, for instance, April, there's a number 1, and that's dates and interactions. Basically, the situation goes back to a difference in how we ran our data retreats, and the results, I think, it was like a home run to me. It seemed like the way that we ran that, otherwise sometimes it's in the summer, in the fall, nobody remembers. Now we not only do the data retreat I think it was in March, that we can use it. In fact, there was a direction from the superintendent on that issue to use the information as to how we look forward for the next year. And I think that'll be a plus for us. I just wanted to say that. The number 2 that talks about leadership. We've done a lot of things this year dealing with professional development. We've done a lot of things to keep focus within the schools. We are a school district, not a district of schools, so we have to know where they're at and how they're going. And I think we made good moves in those directions this year. There are some things that we're doing, like with parent surveys. I like the issue with the improvement console. I think some of the schools or teachers can now do their own, I guess we'd say, self-reporting. And I think if we can all do that, I think that the kids will be able to, well, we'll work with them where they need to be worked with, interventions or whatever, and I think we've improved on those things. The third one talks about being on site, and there's a couple of things that I built in there with the on-site. Big focus this year was the new math. It was quite a process, but I think we got it, and I was able, with the, I think it was last week, where they had training, and I thought both the training I saw in this room and the training there, I felt, I think we're going to see some developments and some ongoing math improvement that we maybe haven't seen in the years that I've been here. So keep that in mind. The other one that I had, I do go to all the buildings, and I like to do classroom observations. I like to see what's going on, and I also talk with the staff if possible. This year, if you look on I'm trying to think where I got that in here. Basically, one of the areas that I went to was vocational ed. I had not been there. And two things happened. Number one, we didn't, I know we have more than just carpentry and automotive, but those are the two I focused on. That's where I was to visit. And basically, the money that we had for it was not spent. That won't happen again, I'm assured. But we have people in new positions, and also the State Department can be pretty uncooperative as well when they say you got to have money spent 6 months before the end of the school year. But we need to create ability to work with them. There is a person in here that is assigned to our district. And I've talked to this assistant principal that's going to be dealing with that. And I know he's been up there to some meetings, but we got to get that person down here. We got materials in that building that are not functional, they're broken or outdated, and they're in the way for what the staff needs to do. One of the statements we made with them, and I met with them a couple more times, it's kind of like we just can't go out and start doing everything. So I'm hoping that somebody will make sure that those two teachers that have some kind of a plan. I mean, they want to do everything at once, and that's not going to happen. But I would like to just state that our assistant principal should be kind of a leader in that venue. And it's interesting. I didn't know that the Argus Leader was going to cooperate with me. But here it says, school program aims to fix shortage of construction workers. Now that's just one thing. I look at some of the kids that we have in the high school. I've been there enough. If we could kind of get them to be interested in maybe a class like this, that might affect everything else they do while they're here. And there are kids in there. I ended up being in there about 4 times just to see it. There are kids that were, it kind of like was maybe their highlight of the day. They were doing what they were doing. So without going further ado, I would like to think that somewhere this summer or sometime this summer yet, take a look at what's over there, what we have. There's pieces in there that, to me, are even dangerous. And I know that we had one of our staff members dealing with the State Department, and I'm not always happy with them either. And so he's not even here. Hopefully we can get that straightened out. You've got 2 good people there. They got energy, they like kids, and they got ability. So let's move on. Quickly here, in May, we have the same thing, 1, 2, and 3. I think we are able to get most of our purchase orders approved. We came up with a new way to look at professional development, and I'm all for it. We have teachers that have needs to build their abilities as teachers, improve on instruction. And at this point, we have pretty well, I think, got everybody who we could get in moving forward in that. Another thing, my reports go to here, and they're filed in there. So there are some things that I put into my report